everyone. Thank you for joining us again on our Thursday virtual community meeting. Very excited to present this week, not just as a follow-up as to how this got started and what the purpose of these meetings began with and what they came to, but we have an extraordinary panelist this evening, and you're going to be able to see people that actually heard our call, our concern, and our residents' specific requests in the very beginning of these virtual community meetings, and what they did, from that time, which was only like 5 to 6 weeks ago, and everything that's happened. So it was a very special, extraordinary week for us. If you recall, hitting the rewind button, just really quickly to the beginning of these meetings, some of the needs that we reached out for was specifically around food and hygiene. And one of the key components of our community and our portfolio of properties that serve our residents is there are about half of those properties of our 25, 26 properties are called SRO units, single resident occupancy units. They share kitchens and they share bathrooms. And one of our very first resident speakers, a gentleman by the name of Kayo, that you'll actually get an opportunity to hear later today, outlined why the shelter-in-place mandate and COVID-19 really put a concern and strain on the residents living in communities like that, because they shared a kitchen and they needed to schedule out when they were going to be eating or cooking, what have you. And then they share, bathrooms and shower facilities, and just making sure that the health and wellness of that environment was supported was a really difficult thing to do. So our residents wanted to adhere to the requirements that were put in front of them in social distancing and making sure that they self-quarantine. But they also wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to serve their own needs and get supplies and equipment for that. And when that was presented in the beginning of these meetings, there was an extraordinary response to the call for that, and we'll go over that in a little while. But those solutions, specifically around the hygiene kits, which is what we're working on and focusing on today, really started some effective and long-term strategic collaborations that we're really excited about. We're really honored. We're really looking forward to it continuing. So just at a really, really high level, you can't see the PowerPoint presentation because I'm on the screen right now, but if you could, or if you look at it later, there's a slide called This Week at the Trust, and it shows the soap, the shower shoes, the toothpaste, the socks, these hygiene kits that were created. And I was speaking about this earlier today about not just the level of putting it together, like just the efficiency and effectiveness of making sure that we were serving needs, but the emotional excitement from the team of employees that we have that actually received the donations, the team of employees that had the opportunity to go to the properties and distribute them. We've been doing this for the last couple of weeks. And then lastly, and most importantly, just the warm embrace of this hygiene kit from our resident community. So the obvious benefit, the obvious upside was the fact that, they received supplies that they so urgently needed. But equally, if not more important, they felt heard, they felt responded to, they felt important, they felt like there was people outside that really were concerned about their health and wellness. And it was true and it was accurate, and you're going to get to hear from them, those that responded first this evening. But that is really something that's very hard to articulate over a virtual community meeting. So the best we can do is with imagery and the words that I'm using right now. But the emotional connection of community that this particular hygiene kit facilitated was phenomenal. So we're very grateful for that. I speak on behalf of the organization and all of the team members here, as well as our residents, but we have met their food needs, and now we have met their hygiene needs too. So thank you for doing that. You know, the next slide, you know, after that is just another kind of key true up to make sure that we are continuously committing to the community, that post-COVID, whenever that is, that there's still going to be other services, other environments and community centers that still will serve the needs of those that are homeless or those that are seeking housing. You know, we are trying to pursue with other collaborations, including, again, some of the ones that you're going to be hearing about this evening, called a Trust Access Center. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. The location is going to be right here at our headquarters, 1317 East 7th Street. It increases access to homeless services. It's a problem solver. It helps housing navigation. It helps with peer support. Peer-to-peer support is very, very important, because those that understand where people are coming from when they're looking for housing, you know, just that empathetic approach and the relationship, you know, creation and management is very, very key in long-term success. It helps with the crisis, the shelter, and direct referrals for care. It also does not focus on unnecessary barriers like sobriety, disability, and health and medical needs. So the Trust Access Center is, again, another pursuit and another request, you know, from these meetings or from our residents or from the residents that have access to the community that maybe aren't housed yet. So we're really excited to continuously communicate about that. You know, and then the next slide shows the pictures of our panelists, and I'm just going to take an opportunity to introduce them and talk about that a little bit. So I want to thank all of them, obviously, for joining us today. Not only do they give, you know, these supplies and their emotional commitment and connection, but they gave their time tonight, you know, to talk with our community, with our group, and those that, you know, join in to listen to like our updates every week. So before I get started on the questions for everyone, I just wanted to organizations do. Unilever, Right to Shower, and LavaMaeX have donated an extraordinary amount of supplies, you know, right around 10,000, but we're specifically talking about 2,000 hygiene 1,800 residents, and those residents really needed those kits, like I outlined earlier. They also provided $10,000, you know, in prototype plans, soap, and an ongoing collaboration for 25 hand washing stations in front of all of our buildings in Skid Row. I think if you have tuned in before, you saw some of the pictures that we had where there's a hand washing station in collaboration with LACAN. And again, you're going to hear from this gentleman in a little bit, but in our first meeting, Kayo was really the inspiration and the effective communicator about what was needed as it related to hygiene, not only in our SRO buildings, but right outside of them. And he wanted to make sure that people were focused on the community that were still, you know, living out on the streets. So all the people that you're going to hear from tonight made sure that they stepped up and served our residents, but the community at large. Another really important aspect and organization that came in to partner with us, you know, very quickly and made sure that one of the most important things too were the shoes. Souls for Souls donated 1,072 pairs of shower shoes for the residents in our SRO buildings that have to navigate COVID-19 with the shared kitchens and baths. LACAN is actually building like the stations and partnering with community members and our staff to deploy the stations and make sure that they can continue. We've got 26 properties. I think we're halfway through that right now. We showed some pictures. We'll continue to show pictures. We'll continue to brag about that because all of these collaborations are making not just an immediate impact on the community and the needs of the community, but they're setting all of the kind of the key steps for long-term effect and impact and making sure that awareness continues to be placed on the needs that the homeless community has and our residents have as well. Our guests this evening are Kris Kepler, Chief Program and Strategy Officer for LavaMaeX, Bethany Lueers of Unilever's Marketing Future Leader, the CEO of Souls for Souls, and Kayo Anderson, who is the Minister of Culture at Los Angeles Community Action Network, also known as LACAN. I'd like to start, the panelist session in the next few seconds. So if everyone wants to join me through popping up the screen, and showing your faces on the video would be great. I'd like to start with just allowing our audience to hear for a few minutes about each of you and what you do in your organizations, what your organizations do at large, and how they're adapting during COVID-19 and what the organizational response looks like. Kris, if you could get us started would be great, followed by Bethany, Buddy, and Kayo would be appreciated.
Sure, thank you so much for having me. I just want to give a little bit of background on LavaMae and who we are and how we pivoted to LavaMaeX, just to give people some context on who we are. We were founded in 2014 by Donnie Sandoval, who is our founder, to bring access to hygiene to the streets. And just a little bit of background, in 2014, she lived in the middle of San Francisco and saw a lot of her neighbors start to get evicted, and older men who then subsequently passed away on the streets. And she said, what is it that I can do to help people? And so a few weeks later, she was walking and ran across a woman who was on the streets, who was crying, and said, if I could just get clean, I need to get clean. And that's where a light bulb went off in her head and said, how can we bring access to hygiene to the streets? If you can bring tacos on mobile trucks, why can't we bring toilets and showers on wheels as well? And so that's how the idea was born. She did some research and found that in San Francisco, there was only 16 public toilets and showers for people to use. And she was able to secure a minibus that was being retired, did some fundraising, and got enough money to retrofit a minibus to put showers and toilets on wheels. And so we launched in 2014, and since then have served Los Angeles, Oakland, Berkeley, and San Francisco. We actually served Skid Row for 2 years at Gladys Park. So the Skid Row community is near and dear to our hearts. And what we've learned through all of this is how you deliver the service is just as important as the service itself. So as you mentioned, making sure people don't feel forgotten, listening to them, being there for them as a friend, in relation to staying clean and enabling them to keep their dignity and unlocking the opportunities that come with being clean is so critical. So since our launch, we fielded many inquiries for people that wanted to offer a mobile hygiene service. And so what we did is we created a DIY mobile hygiene toolkit in 2017 to enable communities to bring mobile hygiene, to their own, to people that live on the streets and to their own communities. And so really our core goal at LavaMae is to create programs and share our IP with the world. And so just as a little bit of background, we surpassed our impact goal of serving 30,000 Californians last fall. And that's where we said, what is our new impact that we want to have on the world? And that's really where we decided to make the pivot to LavaMaeX, which is a nonprofit accelerator that's teaching the world how to take critical services for the unhoused to the streets. So creating things like toolkits, mentoring, training people to do this work, not only for mobile hygiene, but as you've seen, our DIY hand washing stations is our latest program that we're launching, as well as our pop-up care villages, which we've worked on for a while, and we're creating a toolkit for that as well. So today, in this new world of COVID, A lot of what is important to us is to stay connected to the community and to our guests. And some of the things that we've done, as I mentioned, created a new program to create hand washing stations and enable communities to bring that to the people. But we're also distributing hygiene kits ourselves throughout our locales, and including really critical things like hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, things like that, and educational pamphlets to help educate guests who are scared and feeling isolated right now during this time, and helping to educate them. So at this point, it's really for us about staying engaged, and we do still deliver shower service in Oakland, in Los Angeles, and San Francisco 1 day a week. We have suspended that shower service for now, but we are actively revising our protocols and staying in touch, close touch with health officials to make sure that we can get back on the streets and get trained and have the appropriate PPE gear to deliver hygiene service again.
That's like just beyond amazing what you guys do. And I was like, as you were writing, or I'm sorry, as you were talking, I was writing down going, I want to do that. And I want us to do that. And I'm going to follow up with Kris to do that. That was awesome. So thank you so much.
Well, we are very, very honored to be able to continue to support this Skid Row community. And like I said, it's the community is near and dear to our hearts. As I mentioned, we served there for 2 years, and want to make sure we're able to educate and give everybody our knowledge so people can do it themselves. As we know, the best solutions come from the communities themselves. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if we could get Bethany to go on to video so we can hear about your organization, your background, and same and similar perspective, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you see me okay?
Yes, there you are.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come and speak with you tonight and just engage in this conversation. I think it's so important while we're so socially isolated to have this, just time to come together and talk about, all the positive things that are happening in the world. So thank you. And it's just so cool to hear about the on-the-ground work that you guys are doing. And I feel so, far removed from it sometimes. So it's really refreshing and inspiring to hear all of these things that you are doing. So my name is Bethany Lueers, and I am here on behalf of the Right to Shower and Unilever. I'm on the brand team for the Right to Shower, which is a socially conscious skin cleansing organization. And our story really started with our co-founder, Laura Fruitman. She was growing up in New York City, and, she just saw homelessness was a really horrible issue. And, she would notice people on the street and talk to them like she would any of her other friends. And so one day someone said, people don't really do this. You're the first person that has really, even looked at my way today. And so I think that just really stuck with her and impacted her. And so when she started working at Unilever, it was just really heavy on her heart. She remembered those moments. And so she had this vision to start a skin cleansing brand that offers body wash and bar soaps and serves as a revenue stream for our partnership with NGOs, specifically with Kris and the LavaMaeX team. And so we launched last year, and it was really quick, and we were dedicated to donating 100% of our profits in the first year to be able to fund a lot of the initiatives that Kris spoke about. And so last year we donated $500,000 to be able to support those replicator programs. And when COVID hit, it was really a hard time for everyone. But first and foremost, our gut reaction was we, as a brand, as the brand that cares about providing access to hygiene for everyone living on the street, this is the time where we need to not only not step down, but to really vamp up our support even more. And so on top of our profit donation, we composed sort of a three-pronged approach to respond to the crisis. And so the first was creating a cross-brand partnership with other brands in Unilever and outside of Unilever, and creating hygiene kits to be able to really support those in need holistically. And so we partnered with Schmidt's and Q-Tips, which are other Unilever brands. And then externally, we partnered with Bombas to donate socks. And so those were the components of the hygiene kits. So that was the first program. And then the second program was calling our audience to nominate organizations that they felt could really use the extra soap at this time. So we dedicated 20,000 additional units of soap to offer to send 100 units of soap per nomination to qualified organizations. And then the third step was calling our social media audience to write messages of connection. So they would submit notes of encouragement and just anything that, felt that we could fill lives with dignity and joy and hope and strength during this time. And so we were really grateful just to be able to rely on our audience and get their support, during this critical time, which has been essential. So yeah, through this, we really wanted to empower our consumers to, be able to have their voice and to feel like they're making a tangible impact, but also, provide those on the ground services and show that, we're not backing down no matter what sales look like.
Well, all that work is amazing. Like everything that you do and your organization does is amazing. And it's so easy to hear the effect and impact. I think one of the things that really stands out about your organization, and you touched upon it, is how you engage people, like how you engage the community, how you listen to the community you're trying to serve, how you engage the community that wants to partner with you and provide support, supplies, whatever it is. But just the method that you go about doing that is it's extraordinary, because it's a lot of work, and you do it so effectively, and then you execute. So kudos to you. So thank you for being part of like our organization too. Like we really couldn't have done anything without you three. So I really appreciate it, and we're learning from you as well. So thank you. And so if we could bring on Buddy now to talk about Souls for Souls would be great. So Buddy, if you could go live would be awesome, so that you could kind of go through what you do and how you do it in your organization.
Sure. I'm the CEO at Souls for Souls. My name is Buddy. Before I get started, I want to build on what Bethany said when she mentioned Bombas. We also get the chance to work with them a lot, and they get so much what I think everybody's trying to do on this call. We work with a lot of companies, and they have a buy one, give one model. And sometimes the give one is not very good. The Bombas give one sock is just as good as the one that you buy. And they really care about this community. And I don't know what the number is now, but it's in the millions of socks they've donated to shelters and other organizations who work with people who are on the streets or experiencing homelessness. And I just think they get a special shout out because they really do it really well. Souls for Souls has been around since 2006, and we started as a disaster relief organization even before we were officially formed. the people who did start it were the tsunami in Southeast Asia in 2004, which was heartbreaking. And then less than a year later, Hurricane Katrina here in the US, which brought that devastation and awareness of what that looked like much closer to home for most people. And since that time, Souls for Souls has distributed about 40 million pairs of shoes around the world. And a lot of and increasingly apparel. I think we just crossed the 10 million pieces of apparel mark last year. And so what we do when we think about that is how do we create opportunity with shoes and clothes? We were talking a little bit before. I had the chance to meet Lee and Jet and one of Skid Row Housing Trust board members, Diane, last year sometime, and just blown away by the work. And so when we got the chance to help, we leapt at that because most of our work is outside the US. And this year we'll collect probably 5-ish million pairs of shoes and about that many pieces of clothes. And all the used product that we collect goes outside the US. And we sell that to people in the developing world, and they resell it as a way to create a job. So that's one way we think about opportunity. Is it's an opportunity for people to take something that's not being used here and to be sold and valued in places where there's not a lot of opportunity, especially in any sort of formal economy where you can get a job and show up and get a paycheck. You got to hustle, you got to be an entrepreneur. So we love that approach. And lots of times, especially with new product, which when we distribute product for free, we only provide new product. And lots of times the companies who donate new product say, hey, we're happy to do this, but it can't be used in the US. And sometimes that's really frustrating because there's a lot of need here, but we understand there are good business reasons for that. But in doing that, I think it frustrates us sometimes not to be able to help. We see the need where we live and where we travel and when we talk to people. And so in this particular crisis, it has been amazing to us how companies who ordinarily are like, hey, this has got to leave the country, are saying this can't leave the country. Bring it here to the US, get it in the hands of people who can use it right away, whether that's frontline workers, nurses, doctors, janitors, bus drivers, grocery workers, like get it to people who really need it and who are taking big risks. And so when we had the chance to talk with Skid Row Housing Trust about, hey, is there something that we could do that you need? It was really easy to get the okay to use these shoes for this purpose because when we think about opportunity, not only is it to be an entrepreneur in Haiti or Honduras or Zambia or some other countries in Africa where we work, but it's also an opportunity to keep people safe and healthy. Sometimes we think about that when we think about shoes, which is not that often for many of us. We don't think about it as a way to stay safe, whether that's so you don't get your feet cut or you don't get injured. But in talking to a lot of people who are on the streets, shoes are one of the most important things that they have. People are walking a lot, they're on their feet a lot. Sometimes they're worried about taking them off because they get stolen, and so they wear them more than that's healthy for them. And so a new pair of shoes and new pair of socks can be almost like a reboot in how they feel. And so we love being a part of that. And to know that we get to be a part of that and help everyone who's an SRO community in Skid Row Housing Trust be safe as well. I mean, the thing that blows me away hearing many of these stories for the first time tonight is, we've got this crazy divide in our country about what should we do, and masks are stupid and we don't have to social distance. And hearing the stories here about how much this community wants to do the right thing and take care of each other and take care of themselves by taking care of their hygiene, washing hands, shoes, masks, all that stuff, blows me away. I wish everybody could hear this story, because that lesson should be taken up by a lot of other folks who have a lot more opportunity and resources. And so I'm really moved by this and glad that so many of our corporate partners feel the exact same way and have said, turn the tap on and find a place for the product that we donate. And hopefully this will be the beginning of a lot of companies thinking differently about that, and the first of many times we get to work with Skid Row Housing Trust.
Well, thank you for all of that, buddy. I mean, we were so excited to do something with you, like you said, when we first initially met, when we were connected, and we were impressed with you and your organization and just trying to find what can we do together, when can we do it together, how do we do it together. And then when this hit and we called you and you responded within days, like it was just amazing. And I just want our our team members, our residents, our community listening now, like how fast the response was from you, because a lot of times people do want to pitch in and they do want to help, but it takes a little bit longer to kind of work through processes, and you just got them here. And it shows to your, much like the two other lovely women that spoke, it's just your ability to execute on a concept so quickly is impressive. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thank you.
And now we are going to introduce Kayo. He is the Minister of Culture for LACAN, and he is going to speak from his perspective of what he actually kind of kicked off and where this has come full circle in a very short amount of time. So Kayo, if you could go on video so we could see you and hear you and talk about your organization, your perspective, and all of the activity that's gone on from the first time you spoke until now would be awesome. Sorry, everyone, just 30 more seconds. He is coming through a couple of connectivity channels. So just hang on for 30 seconds. Kayo, you might be on mute. The audience can't hear you speaking yet, and we can't see you. Okay, we're gonna try to work through some technical issues right now, so sorry about that, but I will get a heads up as soon as the connectivity works for Kayo. He's just gonna come out and try to come back in. So we're gonna go to the panelists. So I'm gonna click back on the screen and invite the panelists to come back on the screen. And since you did such a beautiful job, buddy, we're gonna go to Kris for the first question, and then we're gonna come back to you because we have a special question for you, so that would be awesome.
Great.
So Kris, obviously, we love the work that Washington campaign launched, and I think you know this, but we launched it with LACAN and USC Annenberg. So your facilitation of this effort brought in a lot of different organizations to come together, and again, short-term impact, long-term relationship has been just beyond awesome. So could you let us know what the response has been since you launched your campaign that you outlined earlier?
Yes, absolutely. And I do just want to say that we were incredibly inspired by the partnership between LACAN and USC Annenberg School of Communication. We saw the grassroots campaign that came out, and between that as well as an organization based in Atlanta, Love Beyond Walls, that is deploying sinks to communities around the United States. We basically put our pen to paper and looked at how can we create a DIY solution being inspired by all these amazing efforts. So at this point, we have created prototypes. We have a toolkit with a DIY video tutorial, an installation manual, as well as supply list. And we've raised $30,000 as part of LavaMaeX to be able to fund replicators to deploy these large-scale hand washing stations in their community. We're also working closely with our partner, the Right to Shower, finding funding and working through funding with them to be able to offer this to communities. And so at this point, we've deployed 6 hand washing stations in Los Angeles locally. So again, we're really big believers of putting this in our own backyard, being able to interact and engage with our guests while we learn from them, as well as deploying it throughout the US. So 6 have been deployed in Los Angeles, 6 will be deployed in the Bay Area. Those are materials that we've purchased and created and deployed ourselves. And then we're talking to about, at this point, we have about 40 replicators. So people that are interested in deploying themselves, and that really runs the gamut of large nonprofits like shelters that want to offer this in front of their brick and mortar shelter, other mobile hygiene providers that want to offer hand washing in relation to hygiene service. Yeah. We're also working with encampment leads. So finding owners and encampments that really want to offer this in their encampment communities. And then we're also working with Indian reservations, so the Navajo Nation, because that's very much a critical need to get hand washing services to that segment as well. So we really just launched this program last week or a week and a half ago. So we're really just in major research mode and deploying locally and training and mentoring people that either call us or submit a form to to create these units themselves and help them do that and fund them along the way.
That's an immense amount of work. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah,
we move quick, and for us, we look at the gaps and the needs, and we innovate around products and services to help meet that. And with with COVID, it's just been the only silver lining for us, I would say, is that we are able to really see what the needs are and innovate around that, and then create programs really as quick as we can to help communities bring hand washing and hygiene service overall to their people.
And then just kind of transitioning over to Bethany, you kind of mentioned a little bit of this earlier, but we saw donated over 60,000 products, which is again, like, just volume, and the way you 3 execute is amazing. Could you share with those listening in our audience, like, how many organizations you actually support and what is in the kits that you deploy?
Yeah, absolutely. So this required a lot of teamwork between Kris and I to coordinate the donations and the shipments. But I think overall we donated to 24 different organizations. And so we wanted to really be able to provide them with sort of a diverse sort of set of products that could help them in different ways. So along with our 10,000 bar soaps, we partnered with Schmidt's, which is another Unilever Naturals brand. And so they donated 10,000 tubes of toothpaste and 10,000 deodorant sticks. And so just with those 3 products alone, it takes care of a lot of those basic hygiene needs. And then also Q-tips, which is another Unilever brand. They donated the travel size packs that they can easily carry with them. And then externally, we had Bombas that made an incredibly generous donation of 20,000 socks. So collectively, we were able to make 60,000 products, and just really thankful for the other brands coming alongside of us and just without hesitation being willing to jump in and seeing that need and responding. And I'm just so thankful to be part of an organization that really cares about giving back to the community in time of need, and just crafting brands with purpose. We say, like, we're really a purpose with a brand. We're mission first, and we really try to live and act that out. So thank you for the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, again, thank you. Between you two, Bethany and Kris, how has COVID-19, which is like, sad at its roots, but, very opportunistic in solving a lot of problems that needed to be solved over quite a long time now. How has it expanded your partnership?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we entered into an amazing partnership starting beginning of 2019. And at that point, our partnership was very much focused on especially the showers, right? So providing showers to the streets. And we were able to fund 13 replicators to provide 20 communities with showers last year. And so this year, especially with the addition of the DIY hand washing stations, as well as mobile showers and any sorts of kind of new programs or products and services that come out of this that we can innovate on, really expanding together the concept of what hygiene is. It's not just showers, it's hand washing, it's all these critical needs that we can help address together. And it's really, the landscape has changed, as we all know, quite a bit, but looking at that larger picture and working through what that means for expanding access to hygiene for all this year.
Awesome. And then, Buddy, earlier you said something that really resonated with our community because we hear it a lot, and it was exciting and interesting to hear you make the statement of how important shoes and socks are. Like, people don't understand how important just the basic necessity of shoes and socks are, because you kind of know food and you kind of know hygiene, or that feels intuitively like familiar to all of us. But socks and shoes on a regular basis are things that people need, and you pointed that out. And so it's kind of a two-part question, is like, how did you come to that awareness? And how do you feel connected to our community that needs them beyond just, normal needs? So if you could kind of like expand on this intelligent intuition you have, would be great.
So I appreciate you giving me some credit for intelligence, but you should back off that really quickly, because it didn't take long. I mean, I'd been at Souls for Souls only a few months before I was a part of an event in Washington, D.C. around a homeless mission right in the center of the city. And right away, I was talking to people who said, like, this really matters. I walk 10 miles a day. People don't understand what that means. And so I went from no idea to right in it, almost from beginning at Souls for Souls.
Download the app.
Sorry about that. Kayo, whoever's speaking,
you can hear me.
Yes, so we can hear you now. If you could just go on mute so that you can be our star visual in a second, would be awesome.
On mute.
So yeah.
Okay, I think yep, okay, sure.
And Buddy, if you could go ahead, would be great.
Sure. So, I mean, really, Lee, it was from the very beginning of my time at Souls for Souls, that became super clear. And as we've worked over the years to explain to especially our corporate partners, since we're only providing new product when we give it away for free, the importance of being able to serve that community. And, again, we talk about Bombas. There are some companies who are like, this is a lay down, we're happy to do it. There are some companies where the bar, like, we're never going to clear it. But I think the thing that I also really appreciate is being able to talk to people experiencing homelessness, and they can articulate why it matters, right? There's this sense, I think, from a lot of people that it's kind of chaotic, and there's like, you can't really talk to people, and it's the opposite of that, right? There's so much politeness and grace in this community that makes it easy to have these conversations that I wish more people could experience, right? So that's one. I think one of the biggest impacts, Lee, that and we're just beginning this, but it's come directly out of this work. There are about 1.5 million kids in public schools in the U.S. who experience homelessness at some point, right? It's a giant problem. And you nailed it at the beginning in saying, thank God there are people working on housing and food, which are you got to get that solved. But shoes are are a real problem that a lot of these kids don't have access to. And there are two things that happen with that. One is, especially as schools become more uniform based, the one way to set yourself apart is shoes. So they become a target, right? If you have the wrong, they don't fit, they're like, you're picked on, you're bullied. Like there's this crazy thing around, well, that's the only way to have a little bit of flash. And if you don't, we're going to come after you. So there's that. And there's also just the fact that, you know, if you don't have athletic shoes, there's a bunch of stuff you can't participate in at school. And it's just another way to different than everybody else. And so we're trying to figure out how to do that. 1.5 million pairs of shoes is a lot of athletic.
Yeah.
It's not going to be in our existing model where people donate those shoes. We're going to have to be more creative and either manufacture them or buy them or do something different. But by understanding and talking to folks who are living in homelessness, who also have kids or who grew up as part of their childhood that way, to then link that back to, we can't just like look into the closet that or our warehouse and say, well, this is what we got. We got to be much more directive and say, it's K through 12, it's 1.5 million kids. Like we got to tackle this. And there are some, like Foot Locker is stepping up. They're in the process of donating 10,000 pairs of shoes that we can distribute here in the U.S. that are brand name athletic shoes.
Yeah.
We'll start that hopefully in the next 90 days. And there's some others that we're still talking to, but I think are going to come through in a big way. So for us, that's a real clear link of the work that we started, and now how do we become a lot more systematic about it?
Well, again, like it's just amazing. We think we're going to bring Kayo on in just like 10 seconds. And before that, I just want to say thank you, you three very much. Extraordinary, awesome work. I know we sent you pictures, we sent some videos to you, but it really just doesn't describe the effect and emotional impact that you've had on our residents and our community. So we'll continue to share, we'll continue to partner. Your stories are amazing. We'll continue to share your stories, to others as well. So thank you very much again, for all of that. And just real quickly, Kayo, welcome back. We're glad to have you again on our call this week. I think I outlined this earlier, and I'm not sure if you were able to hear this, but and your initial request in the beginning of these sessions really prompted a lot of these actions. A lot of sophisticated partners, a lot of passionate partners kind of came forward. So we appreciate your unique perspective, as someone that's really important to us, and as an LACAN team member, working in Skid Row. And you're also, for those of you that might be new to this specific call, Kayo is also a Skid Row Housing Trust resident. So Kayo, could you share some of the community, your response, your perspective, the community response to the hygiene kits, the hand washing stations, the shoes? So if we could hear from you, would be just extraordinary.
Hi, everybody. So you can hear me, right? Just making sure everybody can hear me.
We can hear you and we can see you now.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, that's even better. I'm just kind of like that, one old uncle who still just like isn't getting technology right. So just forgive me for that. I'm really, really grateful to be on this call and sort of in this panel, and actually to see the faces of some of the people whose work has really done a tremendous amount for our community. It's very interesting. I have a very interesting and unique perspective and story. I'm a well-versed artist, musician, worked with people from John Legend to Aretha Franklin to everybody. And in 2016, I became chronically ill for a while and became homeless myself due to medical bills and finances. And so through that entire whirlwind, I ended up in Skid Row Housing Trust building. And it was really a godsend as a person who was really scared and houseless and not sure how to move forward. I'm glad to say I'm back to health and relevance, and my time in Skid Row Housing Trust has been a great part of that situation. So You know, I just want to applaud the fact that Skid Row Housing Trust still does what is the most important thing in this community, and that is provide housing. That is so important. That being said, I've been really, since my life took that turn, I made the decision to really use a lot of my gifts and talents, not so much in the professional world, but in this world where I see they are so needed. I fell in love with this community. I won't be leaving this community. And one of the reasons that I did fall in love with this community is because of the pure, raw honesty. A couple of the other panelists really talked about that, how honest the people are, how much they will absolutely tell you what they need, what they don't need, how they need it. And what's beautiful about the way this entire thing has worked, LACAN has been in the community for over 30 years now, 25 years to be exact, actually, going on 30 years. And we really, our thing through this entire process has been mutual aid. Every week we provide over 400 meals because a lot of the food sources have dried up. We've given out thousands of face masks because there's nowhere for people to get masks. Our Skid Row Power campaign has provided power sources for people to charge their cell phones. The little things that people don't think about, as Unilever and LavaMaeX were talking about, the things that, and shoes, you know, little things that people don't think about that people really do need on a regular basis just to survive. And one of the things that I think has been absolutely beautiful is how organizations have really come together to say, this is the problem, and we are going to not only just talk about this, but we're going to be an active part of the solution. The hand washing stations have made such a huge difference in so many ways. I mean, I'll just speak to a couple of examples, and that is, I never, ever go past a hand washing station that we put up and not see someone there using it, washing their hands, washing their face with that wonderful soap that's been provided, with an innovative setup that's really easy to use, that's safe, that provides them for a way to make sure they can take care of themselves. The other thing that's really beautifully unique about it is we've employed many artists in the Skid Row area to decorate the cans. And so they make them really special. So they're this unique, living, breathing art exhibit that people can use to keep healthy. I cannot tell you how incredible that is. I want to say that again. It is a unique art exhibit in front of each of these buildings that people can use to keep healthy, to stay healthy, and to tell everybody else about how they can get healthy. A few of our cans have been so popular that people have stolen them, but that's okay. We can make another one and put it out there, because we do realize that as this time goes on, we're kind of in this for the long haul, and we're not really sure how long this thing is going to last. But I'm really grateful that we've been able to get those hand washing stations out. I want to tell you firsthand, as a resident of Skid Row Housing Trust, that there has been a huge amount of appreciation for how Skid Row Housing Trust has really stepped up in many ways. Providing all of our residents with those hygiene kits was humongous. People are still talking about them. Shower shoes may seem like something easy to come by, but they're really not in this area. And often when you're on a budget, a low income budget for a lot of people, shower shoes don't really make the list. And there was a lot of concern at the beginning of this about how COVID could affect us being in buildings where we have to share bathrooms, where we have to share kitchens. But I'm pleased to say that Skid Row Housing Trust is they're providing meals as well on an everyday basis. And so I just wanted to say to everybody on this call that what you're doing is absolutely working. It's helping. We are able to really get to people here at LACAN and inform them about the reasons why we want to make sure that they wear masks, that we want to make sure that they social distance. This past week, through work that Jet and Lee and myself and LA Christian Health Centers did, we had testing at our Wellness Wednesdays. So we had an additional 11 people get tested who may not have gotten tested before because there was a little bit of lack of trust in the testing system. And so I feel like the way we've been working these partnerships out has been really magical, with everybody saying, you know what, I'm going to throw everything I have on board. And we're using everything together. We're using music and art and socks and shoes and water and soap. That's pretty basic, but what it's doing for community is absolutely incredible. So I just want to thank everybody for that.
I'm clapping on behalf of our audience. They're all silenced and muted. I'm clapping for them because so awesome, Kayo. Thank you so much, for that. Just to kind of bring it full circle back. One of the first meetings that we had was the first time that we did it. It was the first time Skid Row Housing Trust attempted to kind of go into this virtual communication model. You stepped up, you communicated, you advocated, on behalf of just your compatriots, your friends, in the community, your fellow SRO residents. You articulated and broke down exactly what was needed, why it was needed. You did it with urgency. You did it with grace. You very, very assertively sent out the message, but you did it in a way that it landed and received well. So I can't thank you enough for that. Obviously people heard the call and they stepped up, so thank you for doing that. Thank you for always just your relentless pursuit of bringing awareness to a community that needs it. More importantly, I think one of the things that, we talked about is you're about action. So bringing action to words and action to concepts and ideas is what's key. And our three amazing panelists, plus the one amazing panelist, really, I just really want to point out that these are actions that are taken, and that's how we're going to keep going about solving it. So for all of those that are on the call, you guys hung in there, and we know that you hung in there because we see the level of participation. We want to respect the time, because we have everyone fully engaged still, and it's an hour later. So I do want to make sure that, again, that I take the time out to thank everyone, listening. So I'm just going to go through the calls to action very quickly. Is please always, continue to participate and make a gift, share the stories, advocate, for us. Some of the two things that we want to point out of other two speakers, that we'll bring around again is, we had someone by the name of Diane who was a speaker, for us, and we wanted to make sure that we gave kind of a shout out to her, also because she was taking action by supporting the HEROES bill in the U.S. House of Representatives. Diane Yentl actually leads, the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and that threads into everything we were talking about before. We also want to thank Assembly Member Miguel Santiago. He is providing a framework for $2 billion in annual funding to continue housing and services to address the homelessness crisis, particularly during this time. We know that that you guys can do to make sure that you continue to advocate with our partners would be great. Make a gift, advocate, Amazon wish list, connect there, that we always have, and absolutely, pursue, purchase, give recognition to, and share the stories from Kris and Bethany and Buddy. You can see that their heart, their mind, their passion, and their execution is all on the right thing. We love their tag that they're really kind of purpose first, purpose first, and that's kind of what they build their brand about. So thank you, everyone, for hanging in there. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, Buddy. Thank you, Kris. Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Kayo. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. So see you guys next week. Thanks so much, and connect with you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.